Tesla had its Q4 earnings for 2022, and there is a ton that we have to cover. Now, when Tesla slashed prices for a bunch of its models a couple of weeks ago, it was seen as very negative. And I want to share with you guys this, video from CNBC, and then talk about the importance of what this means for Tesla going forward.
Joellen, what about you? In the case of this price cut for Tesla in particular, what do you expect the cascading effect to be across the rest of the industry? Are they going to the historical precedent here, are they going to elbow competitors out?
Although, the EV market is growing dramatically and the number of players involved is growing by leaps and bounds, Tesla still has the ability to deliver more goods to the market right now. So I think that they can really take a big bite out of the market, which is growing and will continue to grow for the foreseeable future.
And the cost of that is near-term profit margins, Joellen, right? So, maybe give us a feel for what would success look like. Is it going to start off by looking like failure?
I don't know that it will, to be honest. The profit margins at Tesla are still very strong. And to be fair, if Elon Musk wanted to rebate everybody $10,000 out of his own pocket, he could do that pretty handily. So I don't see a huge cut to Tesla's long-term profitability. There might be a short-term bump or drop rather, but it's not going to be a organizationally threatening event.
Now, this is something that I mentioned previously, and that is the ability of having pricing power. See, what you guys have to understand is during a recession, demand gets stifled for all automakers, so legacy automakers and Tesla alike. And so, Tesla has larger profit margins per vehicle, and if they could just trim the profit margins just a little bit, right? Well, guess what? That actually gets to funnel more demand into Tesla, which helps them survive longer during a recession. And that is because Tesla has outstanding vertical integration. See, when you have outstanding vertical integration, there's less mouths to feed during the supply chain, which helps retain profits for the company. And that's exactly what Tesla has. And then on top of that, Tesla sells directly online, which also helps slash prices against paying for dealerships that most legacy automakers have. And now a primitive way just to see how impactful pricing power is to demand is by simply just going into Google Trends, and you can see that ever since Tesla has slashed prices, you can see that their model vehicles are actually trending upwards versus other vehicles, other legacy automakers, their models are trending downwards. And this is why I say it in the Push and Profit private group, I say it in the Push and Profit program, that you want to look into several different data points, especially if you're going to buy into a stock long term, or even if you're going to trade a stock short term, right? You want to look into the fundamentals of the company, you want to look into perhaps alternative data. Sometimes you may want to look into technical analysis. Also, you're going to want to look into macroeconomic climates. What are the monetary policies? You're going to want to look into, just catalyst events. The list goes on. You want to pay attention to several different data points. Now, as far as the earnings go, Tesla did beat earnings for Q4 of 2022, which is absolutely good. They beat earnings by revenue and also earnings per share, which is good. But you guys have to also remember, looking at the earnings report, that just shows the past, right? What's also important when looking into the earnings of a company is also paying attention to the forward guidance, right? Because if we get forward guidance that's bad, well, we could have something that happened like yesterday with Microsoft where we had, the stock rally up and then the stock come down. So this is something that you have to pay attention to. Now, breaking into, forward guidance, there's a few things that I want to go over, and I took some notes on my iPhone during the earnings call because I wanted to just kind of go through each thing, right? So right off the bat, one of the first things that Elon Musk said in the earnings call is that, Tesla had a fantastic year despite, a high interest rate environment, right? Because we obviously had the Federal Reserve raising the federal fund rate, which obviously makes it much difficult for any business to operate. And also the shutdowns, because we know that the Shanghai facilities had to shut down for a couple of months. However, they were able to overcome that, and they've been running just as fine for several months. So he did mention that those were some issues for 2022. However, they were able to hop over the hurdle. And, this kind of signifies that, 2023 may be an even better year because we may not have any more lockdowns happening in China. And some, analysts are already speculating that, the Federal Reserve is going to, lower the federal fund rate kind of towards the end of 2023. So that's some, bullish stuff that we want to look into, right? Now, going back to the earnings call, Elon Musk said that he wanted to make put demand concerns to rest, which is good, right? Because this is obviously the biggest concern that everyone has is demand stifling, right? And so he mentioned that once they cut the order or the prices for Tesla cars, they had the strongest orders in history for Tesla in January, and currently right now it's about twice as many orders in comparison to production. Now he said this is not going to last. This is just as of right now. He's not sure if this is going to be indefinite, but it is something that's happening. So again, kind of alluding back to pricing power, how important it is to kind of be able to have the ability to weaponize margin profits, right? That's a huge ability that Tesla has against a bunch of other automakers, right? He also mentioned that price really matters. Again, pricing power matters. He also mentioned that FSD deployed to over 400,000 Americans, which is incredible because the significance of this is that the more individuals, right, have access to, FSD, the better the product, the AI product is going to be, strengthened, which is obviously going to make it a better product in the future. Way ahead of the curve of a bunch of auto legacy companies, right? He also said, FSD has done 100 million miles outside of highways. So again, good to contributing to, the AI product. Now, I also want to go over some of the questions that took place during the earnings call. I wrote some of them down, and also along with the answers. Now, keep in mind that some of these questions and answers are a little bit paraphrased simply because I couldn't type everything out 100%. But someone asked along the lines of saying, will profit margins fall below gross margins after the price cuts? And then, an executive from Tesla answered the question saying, they're going to still retain above the 20% gross margin profits, and operating margins is a main focus at Tesla. And then this is a part where Elon Musk actually interjected and then gave another answer, right? And he said, well, one of the things you have to consider is FSD is available to all these cars that are being sold, right? And so FSD is a separate product, and even if margins fall down on the initial car, right? FSD is this AI product where anyone who purchases these cars can at any time, any point, purchase FSD, which can significantly amplify and increase the profit margins for these cars. So he's saying, as FSD is like getting more and more developed, and of course the popularity is going to grow. Well, this, we don't really have to worry about, margins kind of contracting because we have FSD, something that all these other auto legacy cars don't have. So I thought that was pretty interesting that he mentioned that. Now, another question someone asked, and again, I'm going to be paraphrasing, but they asked about Elon Musk's political comments and how that will impact demand, for the cars and also brand recognition, right? And this was really hilarious. Elon Musk, answered the question saying, well, hold on, let me pull out my Twitter account, and then mentions, the large amount of people following him on Twitter, and that how Tesla will benefit from this, from using Twitter. And, the fact that he also mentioned that a lot of other companies should be using Twitter to their advantage to leverage, popularity and demand. And this is something that's not going to impact him. Yeah, he's made some comments that some individuals, may not like him or really, agree with, but that's a small minority versus a vast amount of people that follow him. So I thought that was kind of savage and funny that he said that. Now, another question that someone asked was about the Cybertrucks. They mentioned, will the Cybertrucks be in production mid this year? This was something that I was a little bit down on, as he mentioned that Cybertrucks will not be a significant contributor in 2023, but will be in 2024. He also mentioned that, models, some of the starter models are going to be made in, the mid of this year in the summer, but like the volume production for it is not going to take place until 2024. So again, kind of pushing back Cybertrucks, which again, something that me personally, I thought was kind of bad, because we've all been waiting for this, amazing product to hit their product line. But, we'll see what ends up happening. Overall, a great earnings call. The forward guidance seems to set this tone that 2023 is going to be even a better year, and 2024 is going to be a better year as well, which is something that's kind of like habitual for Elon Musk. I've personally never heard an earnings call where he kind of was was downplaying what's going to happen. So you got to take that with a grain of salt when they say it's going to be a great year. But overall, this earnings was significantly different from all the other earnings calls we've heard so far. But I want to touch on something very, vital that I think you guys should not skip on, because this is going to possibly change the direction of the overall market. And I need you guys to hear me out on this. So I mentioned to the Push and Profit private group probably a couple of weeks ago, because I always talk to them first, and then I made a public video on YouTube mentioning how we're entering into a pivotal moment for the overall market. Now, why did I say this? Well, I mentioned how we're entering into earnings season, as we're having like a bunch of companies from the overall S&P 500 release their earnings starting from, January 23rd going into like February 3rd. I think that's like the time range where we're having a bunch of earnings come out. And one of the things I mentioned is we could potentially move from a, inflationary recession and kind of transition to an earnings recession, where we see a lot of companies not beat earnings, which could, push the market down. However, things may change, and I want to go ahead and kind of just explain that, right? So one of the things I want to talk about is, the analysts kind of lowered their expectations for Tesla's earnings, significantly as we got closer to earnings. And why does this matter, right? Well, here's the thing, guys. You guys know that, earnings, whether a company beats earnings or, misses or comes close to it, at the end of the day, this definitely has, it's a catalyst event that could significantly move the market. However, what we're ending up kind of seeing, right, so far we've seen this, is analysts are lowering their expectations for these companies' earnings, right? And these companies are actually either beating their earnings or coming close to beating the earnings, which is seen as somewhat kind of bullish. So we're actually seeing a transition from, what I originally thought of, companies just, losing to earnings. But we're, the shift is analysts are lowering their expectations and making it easier, putting this perception that things are good, which could obviously push the market up. Now, I also want to cover something, right? Because there's one more catalyst event that we cannot miss, right? Now, that catalyst event is a FOMC rate decision meeting happening February 1st. Now, why is this important? Well, we know that the Federal Reserve is either going to raise, the federal fund rate by either 25 basis points or 50 basis points. So, as we see the overall market kind of trending upwards, right, this could honestly be the bottom. And I hate to say that. I hate to say that simply because we're still, currently in a recession, right? I know economists kind of debate whether we're in one or we're heading into one. Whatever you want to say, this is a time when things are not going to be good. However, we're having this kind of narrative being, spun around and changed with, analysts lowering expectations, allowing companies to beat. And as we're having, getting closer to the FOMC rate meeting, what we're going to see is if they make raise the federal fund rate by only 25 basis points, well, the market's very forward looking. They're going to look at this as, okay, well, as they're they're raising the federal fund rate, but by a lower amount, this could be bullish because that means we're getting closer to, the federal fund rate getting slashed or getting cut. So overall, we may start seeing the overall market trend upwards, which is completely opposite from what I originally thought, which is why I wanted to wait till we got to the earnings season so we could assess what's going on. Definitely pretty interesting to consider. However, another interesting thing to consider is the fact that, the Push and Profit program has a 50% off coupon code where if you join right now, it expires in a few days, you have access to the Push and Profit private group and the Push and Profit program. The private group, you have access to my daily briefings where I cover everything firsthand with that group, what stocks I'm looking to trade, the reason why, and also you have access to the Push and Profit program where you have over 5 hours of video lessons talking about what I look into when it comes to buying and trading in the market. So definitely take advantage of that coupon code, 50% off. And with that being said, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about, Tesla going forward or the overall market. And with that being said, guys, make sure to watch this next video right over here. And I'll see you guys on that next video. Take care, guys.